Hey, so this is crazy. You would think, well, eventually I will have had enough experience doing YouTube lives that I will know all the ins and outs of the whole system and website. I'm not there yet. All right, move the chat out so I can actually see it when I'm recording. You may have seen, must have been very naughty last year because Santa brought COVID. He's a nice guy, though. I don't think Santa brought COVID. I think more likely COVID snuck in behind him or something. Anyway, felt kind of crummy for a couple of weeks. Then last week, pardon me, I'm bringing up my DAW because YouTube distractions. I didn't get everything set up before going live. There's a whole, you start to weigh, and you don't know how to be objective with yourself. Do I still sound sick enough, bad enough to throw off the entire schedule for this entire production? Do I get in the way of the proofers they have scheduled and the post-production editors that they have scheduled? The actual book is available for pre-sale with a specific date on it. Did I sound bad enough to throw all of that off? And I decided no. So I recorded half of a book last week, sounding a little bit mushy, a little nasally, mildly congested at times. It came in and out. And I will finish that book this week. Okay, this is a new book today, so we need a new folder. The Tale of Solomon Owl. The name like Solomon, you think he's going to be wise? We'll see. So another thing I was going to do before actually recording today was look up call of the particular species of owl Solomon is. And again, figuring out YouTube, finally gave up, canceled the scheduled recording, and just jumped on here, live. In course of all that, I didn't do all of the other prep I meant to do before being here. Another little insight into the narrator's life. All right, going ahead, getting my file set up. Remember what distributor this is for. And how they like things stated. And for me, I need to put a little chapter 1 on the end here. That's for me. Okay. That's up, ready to record. But before I record, Barred Owl. Ooh. You gotta love YouTube. Okay, let's hope that this is just a video of the calling. Oh, first an ad. Sorry. It's more dramatic than I was anticipating. Ah. Okay. Oh, this is marvelous. Okay. Now I see why they think he's laughing at them all the time. Okay. Just an idea. So not my usual ooh, ooh that I think of as an owl that I hear pretty often around here. Ooh, 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 ooh. Getting that sound with how it's written here combined. Gotta respect the author and how they heard things as well. Okay. Are we ready? Actual audiobook narration only took me 6 minutes to get here. Not too bad. And tea. The Tale of Solomon Owl. One. Weird mouth noise, right from the outset. One. Scaring Johnny Green. When Johnny Green was younger, it always scared him to hear Solomon Owl's deep-toned voice calling in the woods after dark. Woo, 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 woo. That weird cry was enough to send Johnny Green hurrying into the farmhouse, though sometimes he paused in the doorway to listen, especially if Solomon Owl had his booming across the meadow on a crisp fall evening when the yellow moon hung over the fields of corn shocks and pumpkins. Sounded almost as if Solomon were laughing at the little boy he had frightened. That wasn't enough air. Whew. Sounded almost as if Solomon were laughing at the little boy he had frightened. Okay. Not enough to put the cursor. Listen, especially if Solomon Owl happened to be laughing. His ha ha hoo hoo booming across the meadow in a crisp. Back up a little bit more. That word his, I was expecting to say. In the doorway to listen, especially if Solomon Owl happened to be laughing. His ha ha hoo hoo booming across the meadow on a crisp fall evening when the big yellow moon hung over the fields of corn shocks and pumpkins sounded almost as if Solomon were laughing at the little boy he had frightened. Mocking, jeering note in his laughter. Of course, as he grew older, Johnny Green no longer shivered on hearing Solomon's roll call. Not his roll call. So this is punch and roll. I knew I made a mistake. So I'm going back to the beginning of that sentence or phrase. There was certainly a mocking, jeering note in his laughter. Of course, as he grew older, Johnny Green no longer shivered on hearing Solomon's rolling call. When Solomon laughed, Johnny Green would laugh too. But Solomon Owl never knew that. A hoot owl, Johnny Green termed him, and anyone who heard Solomon hooting of an evening or just before sunrise. Do a little more emphasis. Evening, sunrise. When we're awake to hear him. Never knew that, for often he was half a mile from the farm buildings. A hoot owl, Johnny Green termed him. Anyone who heard Solomon hooting of an evening or just before sunrise would have agreed that it was a good name for him. But he was really a barred owl, for he had bars of white across his feathers. If you happened to catch Solomon Owl resting among the thick hemlocks near the Bigfoot of... The Bigfoot? Mountains have feet. Are they any particular size? So also, with COVID, it turns out that I had infections in both ears, which meant antibiotics. And despite all of the probiotics I took to try to balance it, and I'm still taking yeasty stuff in my mouth. Sorry, that's gross, but it makes for more mouth noise. More things to watch out for and retake for. But this was just a brain fart. Okay.
Owl, where he had bars of white across his feathers.
If you happen to like hemlocks near the foot of Blue Mountain, where he lived, ooh.
Owl, where he had bars of white across his feathers.
If you happened to catch Solomon Owl resting among the thick hemlocks near the foot of Blue Mountain where he lived, you would have thought that he looked strangely like a human being. He had no horns or ear tufts such as some of the other owls wore, and his great pale face with its black eyes made him seem very wise and solemn. A little rough sounding at the end. This is going to take a while if I stop every sentence. But that's how all of last week went.
Dev, you would have thought that he looked strangely like a human being.
He had no horns or ear tufts such as some of the other owls wore, and his great pale face with its black eyes made him seem very wise and solemn. In spite of the mild, questioning look on his face whenever anyone surprised him in the daytime, Solomon Owl was the noisiest of all the different families of owls and
Mild, questioning look on his face whenever anyone surprised him in the daytime.
Solomon Owl was the noisiest of all the different families of owls in Pleasant Valley. There were the barn owls, the long-eared owls, the short-eared owls, the I haven't been coughing a lot. All these different kinds of owls. Here we go.
Is the noisiest of all the different families of owls in Pleasant Valley.
There were the barn owls, the long-eared owls, the short-eared owls, the saw-whet owls, the screech owls. But there's no use of naming them all. There wasn't one of them and hooting and shrieking and wailing at night. During the... Sorry, not liking my first time around on some of these.
But there's no use of naming them all.
I'm going to do that again.
Owls, the saw-whet owls, the screech owls.
But there's no use of naming them all. There wasn't one of them that could equal Solomon Owl's laughing and hooting and shrieking and wailing at night. During the day, however, Solomon Owl seldom had anything to say, or if he had, he was quiet about it. One reason for his silence was that he generally slept when the sun was shining, and when most people were sleeping, Solomon Owl was wide awake.
The reason for his silence was that he generally slept when the sun was shining.
And I don't like how I said shining. I just kind of skipped over that first N. Okay.
Anything to say, or if he had, he was quiet about it.
One reason for his silence was that when he... Shoo-wee.
Anything to say, or if he had, he was quiet about it.
One reason for his silence was that he generally slept when the sun was shining. And when most people were sleeping, Solomon Owl was as wide awake as he could be. He was a night prowler, if ever there... This is not people. Yet I struggle.
Solomon Owl was as wide awake as he could be.
He was a night prowler, if ever there was one, and he could see a mouse on the darkest night, even if it stirred ever so slightly. That was unfortunate for the mice. But luckily for them, Solomon Owl couldn't be in more than one place at a time. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been a mouse left in Pleasant Valley if he could have had his way. And though he didn't help the mice, he helped Farmer Green by catching them. If he did take a fat pullet once in a while, it is certain.
The mice. He helped Farmer Green by catching them.
If he did take a fat pullet once in a while, it is certain that he more than paid for it. Do you hear that mouth noise? So, in addition to the tea to clear my throat, gonna have to get a fresh one. That's stuck. I have 4 xylitol candies. This one kind of sour. So the sour helps my mouth make more fluid, and the xylitol helps coat things a little bit, as well as a yeast deterrent. Can't have a whole lozenge every time I need one. I'll spend all day in the bathroom. TMI? All right.
The mice. He helped Farmer Green by catching them.
If he did take a fat pullet once in a while, it is certain that he more than paid for it. So, on the whole, Farmer Green did not object to Solomon Owl's living in the woodlot. And for a long time, Solomon raised no objection to Farmer Green's living near Swift River. But later, Solomon Owl claimed that it would be a good thing for the forest folk if they could get rid of the whole Green family, and the hired man, too.
Solomon raised no objection to Farmer Green's living near Swift River.
But later, Solomon Owl claimed that it would be a good thing for the forest folk if they could get rid of the whole Green family, and the hired man, too. I wonder what that was about. Are we going to find out in this book, or is it in a prior series? There is a series that was written before this Tuckmean Tales. I think maybe they're called Sleepy Time Tales. Anyway, I will probably go back at some point and catch those books too. All right, mixing down. That was chapter 1. Mixing down chapter 1. I'm going to need to make a folder to put it in. Okay. New folder. Oh, but not here. Cancel that. Delete my mistaken attempt. Open that folder. And make a new folder within it. There we go. The Tale of capital S. Solomon Owl. Then go back. There it is. Okay. Here we are, 13 minutes into recording, and we have 3.5 minutes of finished audio. Hopefully the rest will go more smoothly. Yes, please say. This is my self-post template. In the Solomon Owl folder, this is chapter 2 of The Tale of Solomon Owl. Two, a newcomer. Stranger in Pleasant Valley, Solomon Owl looked about carefully for a place to live. What he wanted especially was a good, dark hole, for he thought that sunshine was very dismal. Though he was willing to bestir himself enough to suit anybody when it came to hunting, Solomon Owl did not like to work. He was no busy nest builder like Rusty Wren. In his search for a house, he looked several times at the home of old Mr. Crow. If it had suited him better, Solomon would not have hesitated to take it for his own. But in the end, he decided that it was altogether too light to please him. Not just too light, like too light.
Better, Solomon would not have hesitated to take it for his own.
But in the end, he decided that it was altogether too light to please him. That and the black rascal knew it too. He had noticed that Solomon Owl was hanging about the neighborhood, and several times he caught Solomon examining his nest. But old Mr. Crow did not have to worry long, for as it happened, Solomon Owl at last found exactly what he wanted. In an old hollow hemlock, he came across a cozy, dark cavity. As soon as he saw it, he knew that it was the very thing. A little awkward there.
Hollow hemlock, he came across a cozy, dark cavity.
As soon as he saw it, he knew that it was the very thing. So he moved in at once. And except for the time he spent in the meadow, which was considerably later, he lived there for a good many years. Drive Solomon out of his snug house and start to say have it for himself, but it's live in it himself.
Considerably later, he lived there for a good many years.
Once Fatty Coon thought that he would drive Solomon out of his snug house and live in it himself. But he soon changed his mind after one attempt to oust Solomon. Solomon Owl, so Fatty discovered. Rough sounding there. Sorry, this is so rattly. Maybe I should get straws that are silicone all the way down for when I'm sharing with y'all.
He soon changed his mind after one attempt to oust Solomon.
Solomon Owl, so Fatty discovered, had sharp, strong claws and a sharp, strong beak as well, which curled over his face in a cruel hook. It was really a good thing for Solomon Owl, the fight he had with Fatty Coon. For afterward, his neighbors seldom troubled him, except when Jasper Jay brought a crowd of his noisy friends to tease Solomon, or Reddy Woodpecker annoyed him by rapping on his door when he was asleep. But those rowdies always took care to skip Solomon's reach.
Or Reddy Woodpecker annoyed him by rapping on his door when he was asleep.
But those rowdies always took good care to skip out of Solomon's reach. And when Jasper Jay met Solomon alone in the woods at dawn or dusk,
those rowdies always took good care to skip out of Solomon's reach.
And when Jasper Jay met Solomon alone in the woods at dawn or dusk, he was most polite to the solemn old chap. Then it was, "Howdy do, Mr. Owl, and I hope you're well today." And when Solomon Owl turned his great, round, black eyes on Jasper, that bold fellow always felt quite uneasy, and he was glad when Solomon Owl looked away.
Solomon Owl turned his great, round, black eyes on Jasper.
That bold fellow always felt quite uneasy, and he was glad when Solomon Owl looked away. If Solomon Owl chanced to hoot on those occasions, Jasper Jay would jump almost
uneasy, and he was glad when Solomon Owl looked away.
If Solomon Owl chanced to hoot on those occasions, Jasper Jay would jump almost out of his bright blue coat. Then Solomon's deep laughter would echo mockingly through the woods. You see, though not nearly so wise as he appeared, Solomon Owl knew well enough how to frighten some people. Woohoo! End of chapter 2. A little blowing through the straw to rest the voice while I mix down my chapter. All right. That goes so much faster once you've got your folders made. All right, getting ready for chapter 3. Here we are. Oh, yes. We'll see how this goes. The voice I gave Mr. Frog in the last book, kind of intense. See if I can do it. I think I can do it. It's not quite as full as it was. I think I can do a close enough approximation, though. Okay. We'll see. If it's too rough, I'll stop this book today. It's not worth messing up my ability to do other books this week just to do one character voice. 3. Solomon likes frogs. It was a warm summer's evening, so warm that Mr. Frog, the tailor, had taken his sewing outside his tailor shop and seated himself cross-legged upon the bank of the brook without ceasing, except to take a swim now and then in the cool water, to stretch his legs, as he claimed. He was making a new suit of blue clothes for Jasper Jay, and since Jasper was a great dandy and very particular, Mr. Frog was taking special pains with his sewing. Usually he did his work quickly, but now, after every 5 stitches that he put into his work, he stopped to take out. You heard Stephen Fry talking about reading the words pocketed it in the Harry Potter books. It's a good story. You should find YouTube or somewhere. Maybe I'll find a link for you. It's fun.
Particular, Mr. Frog was taking special pains with his sewing.
Usually he did his work quickly, but now after every 5 stitches that he put into his work, he stopped to take out 10. And naturally he was not getting on very fast. He had been working busily since early morning, and Jasper Jay's suit was further than ever from being finished. Since he was a most cheerful person, Mr. Frog did not mind that. Indeed, he was more than pleased, because the oftener he took a swim, the fewer stitches he lost. So he sang the merriest songs he knew. The light was fast fading when a hollow laugh startled Mr. Frog. It seemed to come from the willow tree right over his head, and he knew without looking up that it was Solomon Owl's deep voice. Mr. Frog tried to leap into the brook, but when he uncrossed his legs in his haste, he tangled them up in his sewing. All he could do.
But when he uncrossed his legs in his haste, he tangled them up in his sewing.
I'm going to go back because those phrases need to be separated a little differently.
Mr. Frog tried to leap into the brook.
But when he uncrossed his legs, in his haste he tangled them up in his sewing, and all he could do was turn a somersault backward among some bulrushes, hoping that Solomon Owl had not seen him. It is. Read what is written on the page as closely as you can. That is the job.
Among some bulrushes, hoping that Solomon Owl had not seen him.
It is no secret that Mr. Frog was terribly afraid of Solomon Owl. Some of Mr. Frog's friends had mysteriously disappeared, and they had last been seen in Solomon's company.
Some of Mr. Frog's friends had mysteriously disappeared.
I'm going to give that a little more, like, this is spooky stuff, man.
No secret that Mr. Frog was terribly afraid of Solomon Owl.
Some of Mr. Frog's friends had mysteriously disappeared, and they had last been seen in Solomon's company. As it happened, Mr. Frog had hoped in vain, for Solomon Owl only laughed more loudly than before. And then he said, "What are you afraid of, Mr. Oh, no. He's going, woo, woo, woo. but it's his deep voice. But those owls aren't particularly low-pitched. So, what are we going to do with that? I've been debating this one for a couple days. I think I'm going to keep more of the resonance. Ooh. What are you afraid of, Mr. Frog? What are you afraid of, Mr. Frog? Oh, keep my mouth in that kind of oh, ooh, 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 ooh. Still enunciate. We're going to try it. If it's goofy, I can go back and change it.
More loudly than before. And then he said,
What are you afraid of, Mr. Frog? The tailor knew at once that he was caught. So he hopped nimbly to his feet and answered that there was nothing to be afraid of so far as he could see, because Mr. Frog had not yet discovered Solomon Owl's exact whereabouts. But he learned them soon, for Solomon immediately dropped down from the big willow and alighted on the bank near Mr. Frog, altogether too near him, in fact, for the tailor's comfort. Solomon looked at Mr. Frog very solemnly, and then he thought,
altogether too near him, in fact, for the tailor's comfort.
Solomon looked at Mr. Frog very solemnly, and he thought that he shivered. What's the matter? Are you ill? Solomon Owl inquired. You seem to be shaking. Now to get into Frog's voice. Okay, I looked up the actor's name last time, and of course I don't remember now. I picture him, I see him, I hear him. I know who Mr. Frog is. Just a touch of chills and fever, probably. That's not quite low enough, but it's going to loosen up some stuff. All right. We've got this.
Are you ill? Solomon Owl inquired.
Oh, you seem to be shaking. I went back too far.
Inquired. You seem to be shaking.
Just a touch. Wow, let's get it out. Let's get it out. Wow.
You seem to be shaking.
Just a touch of chills and fever, probably, replied Mr. Frog with an uneasy smile. You know, it's very damp here. You don't look in the best of health. That's a fact, Solomon Owl remarked. You appear to me to be somewhat green in the face. And he laughed once more, that same hollow, mirthless laugh. Mr. Frog couldn't help jumping because the sound alarmed him. Don't be disturbed, said Solomon Owl.
Mr. Frog couldn't help jumping because the sound alarmed him.
Don't be disturbed. Oh, I lost it. You appear to be somewhat green in the face.
Mr. Frog couldn't help jumping because the sound alarmed him.
Don't be disturbed, said Solomon Owl. I like all the frog family. At that remark, Mr. Frog started violently. That was exactly the trouble. Solomon Owl was altogether too fond of frogs, whether they were old or young, big or little. It was no wonder that Mr. Frog swallowed rapidly 16 times before he could say another word. End of chapter 3. And if you're new here, yes, I open the door between chapters. I do have a fan, a little ventilation system here, but it can only move so much air without making noise. So we let in oxygen at every opportunity. Mix down. We might get through this whole multi-chapter frog and owl interaction today. Okay, set up the new chapter under the proper template in the right folder. 04, the tale of Solomon Owl. And I wouldn't type the whole thing out at this stage and just, do Solomon or something, but it saves me steps later. And I find it very tedious to click through and rename multiple individual files before my final upload. Okay. What's going to happen? 4. An odd bargain. While Mr. Frog was swallowing nothing rapidly, he was thinking rapidly too. There was something about Solomon Owl's big staring eyes that made Mr. Frog feel uncomfortable. And if he had thought he had any chance of escaping, he would have dived into the brook and swum under the bank. But Solomon Owl was too near him for that, and Mr. Frog was afraid his collar would pounce upon him.
But Solomon Owl was too near him for that.
And Mr. Frog was afraid his collar would pounce upon him any moment. So he quickly thought of a plan to save himself. "No doubt," he began, but Solomon Owl interrupted him. "There," cried Solomon. "You can speak after all. I supposed you'd swallowed your tongue, and I was just waiting to see what you'd do next. I thought maybe you would swallow your head." Mr. Frog managed to laugh at the joke, though to tell the truth he felt more nervous than ever. He saw what was in Solomon Owl's mind, for Solomon was thinking of swallowing Mr. Frog's head himself. "No doubt," Mr. Frog resumed. "No doubt you've come to ask me to make you some new—" Not some new suits.
"No doubt," Mr. Frog resumed.
"Make you a new suit of clothes." Now Solomon Owl had no such idea.
"No doubt you've come to ask me to make you a new suit of clothes."
Now Solomon Owl had no such idea at all. But when it was mentioned to him, he rather liked it. "Will you?" he inquired, with a highly interested air. "Why, certainly," the tailor replied. And for the first time since he had returned...
"Why, certainly," the tailor replied.
And for the first time since he had turned his backward somersault into the bulrushes, he smiled widely. "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll tell you what I'll do." Okay.
Backward somersault into the bulrushes, he smiled widely.
"I'll tell you what I'll do," he said. "First, I'll make you a coat free. And second, if you like it, I will then make you a waistcoat and trousers at double rates." Solomon Owl liked the thought of getting a coat for nothing. But for all that, he looked at the tailor somewhat doubtfully. "Will it take you long?" Ooh. I'm going to have to go ooh before every line just to make sure I have the mouth shape right.
He looked at the tailor somewhat doubtfully.
"Will it take you long? Will it take you... will it... Okay.
But for all that, he looked at the tailor somewhat doubtfully.
"Will it take you long?" he asked. No, indeed. Make your coat while you wait. Oh, I wasn't going away, Solomon assured him with an odd look, which made Mr. Frog shiver again. Be quick, please, because I have some important business to attend to. Mr. Frog couldn't help wondering if it wasn't he himself that Solomon Owl was going to attend to. In spite of his fears, however, he caught up his shears and set to work to cut up some cloth that hung just outside his door. It's a little stuttering or something, I don't know.
If it wasn't he himself that Solomon Owl was going to attend to.
In spite of his fears, however, he caught up his shears and set to work. Stop! Solomon Owl cried in a voice that seemed to shake the very ground. You haven't measured me yet. It's not necessary, Mr. Frog explained glibly. I become so skillful that one look at an elegant figure like yours is all that I need. Naturally, Mr. Frog's remark pleased Solomon Owl, and he uttered 10 rapid hoots, which served to
Naturally, Mr. Frog's remark pleased Solomon Owl.
And he uttered 10 rapid hoots, which served to make Mr. Frog's finger fly all the faster. Soon he was sewing Solomon's coat with long stitches, and though his needle slipped now and then, he did not pause to take out a single stitch. For some reason, Mr. Frog was in a great hurry. Solomon Owl did not appear to notice that the tailor was not taking much pains with his sewing. Perhaps Mr. Frog worked so fast that Solomon could not see what he was doing. Anyhow, he was delighted when Mr. Frog suddenly cried, It's finished. I'm not quite down there yet.
Anyhow, he was delighted when Mr. Frog suddenly cried,
It's finished. It's. Oh, very helpful.
Anyhow, he was delighted when Mr. Frog suddenly cried,
It's finished. And then he tossed the coat to Solomon. Try it on, he said. I want to see how well it fits you. Solomon Owl held up the garment and looked at it very carefully. And as he examined it, a puzzled look came over his...
Owl held up the garment and looked at it very carefully.
And as he examined it, a puzzled look came over his great pale face. There was something about his new coat that he did not understand.
Examined it. A puzzled look came over his great pale face.
There was something about his new coat that he did not understand. What is it? What is going on with this new coat? Okay. Mix down. Move to the folder that I will share later. Close out chapter 4. Set up chapter 5. I do have plans for a public domain, actually 4 public domains this year, that, while kid-friendly, are for an older age group and thus have longer chapters. That will come later. Intermixed with these. So you might get a chapter here and there of this public domain series I other public domain series I have my eyes on. All right, chapter 5. Hmm. 5. The cold weather coat. Yes. As he held up his new coat and looked at it, Solomon Owl was puzzled. He turned his head toward Mr. Frog and stared at him for a moment. And then he turned his head away from the tailor and gazed upon the coat again. Mr. Frog was most uncomfortable. Mouth noise.
And then he turned his head away from the tailor and gazed upon the coat again.
Mr. Frog was most uncomfortable, especially when Solomon looked at him. "Everything's all right, isn't it?" he inquired. Solomon Owl slowly shook his head. "This is a queer coat," he said. "What's this bag at the top of it?" "Oh," exclaimed Mr. Frog, "that's the hood. Knowing that you spend your winters here in Pleasant Valley, I made a hood to go over your head. You'll find it very comfortable in cold weather, and it's the latest style, too. All the winter coats this year will have hoods with holes to see through, you know." Solomon Owl looked relieved at Mr. Frog's explanation, but there was still a little more
Winter
to
coats this year will have hoods with holes to see through, you know.
Solomon Owl looked relieved at Mr. Frog's explanation, but there was still something more that appeared to trouble him. Him? I don't know. Little Yiddish coming out there.
Solomon Owl looked relieved at Mr. Frog's explanation.
But there was still something more that appeared to trouble him. "How shall I get into the coat?" he inquired. "It doesn't open in front as it should." "Another cold weather style," Mr. Frog assured him. "It's windproof, and instead of buttoning the coat, you pull it on over your head." Solomon Owl said he didn't like that style very well. "Then I can easily change it," the tailor told him. "But just try it on," he urged. "It may please you after all." So Solomon Owl pulled the coat over his head, and it fell down about him, almost reaching his feet. But the coat did not seem to suit him at all, for he began to splutter,
And it fell down about him, almost reaching his feet.
But the coat did not seem to suit him at all, for he began to splutter and choke. "What's the matter now?" Mr. Frog asked him. "I can't see. That's what's the matter," Solomon Owl cried in a voice that sounded hollower than ever because it was muffled by the hood, which covered his head. "I declare, I haven't cut the holes for your eyes," the tailor exclaimed. "Just wait a moment and I'll make everything satisfactory." He clinked his shears together sharply as he spoke. But Solomon Owl told him that he wouldn't think of letting anybody use shears so near his eyes. "I'll take off the coat," he said, "and I know now that you're a very poor tailor, for you wouldn't have made such a mistake, or—"
And that he wouldn't think of letting anybody use shears so near his eyes.
"I'll take off the coat," he said, "and I know now that you're a very poor tailor, for you wouldn't have made such a—" Again, I said "for."
And that he wouldn't think of letting anybody use shears so near his eyes.
"I'll take off the coat," he said, "and I now know that you're a very poor tailor, or you wouldn't have made such a mistake." He began to tug at the coat, but he soon found
Mistake. And to tug at the coat.
But he soon found that taking it off was not so easy as putting it on. Solomon's sharp claws caught in the cloth, and his hooked beak, too, fastened itself in the hood the moment he tried to pull the coat over his head. No.
fastened itself, and his hooked beak
Yeah, go back to the claws bit.
soon found that taking it off was not so easy as putting it on.
Solomon's sharp claws caught in the cloth, and his hooked beak, too, fastened itself in the hood the moment he tried to pull the coat over his head. "Here!" he cried to Mr. Frog. "Just lend me a hand. I can't see to help myself." But Mr. Frog did not even answer him. "Don't you hear me?" Solomon Owl shouted as he struggled with his new coat, only to become tangled in it more than ever. Still, the tailor never said a word, though something very froggy, the wrong kind of froggy,
With his new coat, only to become tangled in it more than ever.
Still, the tailor never said a word, though something very like a giggle followed by a splash caught Solomon's ear. "He's left me," Solomon Owl groaned. "Mr. Frog has left me to get out of this coat alone, and goodness knows how I'm ever going to do it." He thrashed about so vigorously that he tripped himself and fell upon the bank of the brook, rolling over and over toward the water. He had a very narrow escape. If he hadn't happened to bring up against an old stump, he would certainly have tumbled into the stream. Though Solomon couldn't see, he knew that he was in danger. So he lay on his back on the ground, carefully tore his new coat into strings and ribbons. At last he was free, and he rose to his feet feeling very sheepish, for he knew that Mr. Frog had played a sly trick on him. "Never mind," said Solomon Owl as he flew away. "I'll come back tomorrow and ask Mr. Frog to make me a waistcoat and trousers, and then—" He did not finish what he was saying, but there is no doubt that whatever it was, it could not have been very pleasant for Mr. Frog. Just as he had planned, Solomon Owl returned to the brook the next day, and he was both surprised and disappointed at what he found. The door of Mr. Frog's tail... Mouth noise.
And he was both surprised and disappointed at what he found.
The door of Mr. Frog's tailor's shop,
And he was both surprised and disappointed at what he found.
The door of Mr. Frog's tailor's shop was shut and locked, and on it there was a sign which said, "To Let." "He's moved away!" cried Solomon Owl, and he went off feeling that he had been cheated out of a good dinner.
"He's moved away!" cried Solomon Owl.
And he went off feeling that he had been cheated out of a good dinner, to say nothing of a new waistcoat.
"Away!" cried Solomon Owl.
And he went off feeling that he had been cheated of a good dinner, to say nothing of a new waistcoat, and new trousers, too. He had not been gone long when the door opened, and Mr. Frog leaped nimbly outside. Little croak there.
He had not been gone long when the door opened.
And Mr. Frog leaped nimbly outside. He took the sign off the door, and sitting down cross-legged upon the bank, he began to sew upon Jasper Jay's new blue suit, while his face wore a wider smile than ever. He had suddenly decided not to let his shop after all.
Blue suit, while his face wore a wider smile than ever.
He had suddenly decided not to let his shop after all. End of chapter 5, which was almost 5.5 whole minutes. Okay. So the question is, if you're looking for discussion topics with your kiddo, did Mr. Frog ever have any intention of renting out his shop? I don't think he did. It was just another trick. That's what I think. All right, I've mixed that down. I'm moving it to the shared folder. And just to get a sense of how things are going, pace did pick up. Got a little better once everything was set up. So it was 10:06 when I started recording. It's 10:57. So in 50 minutes of recording today, highlight all of the chapters, right click, properties, details, 20 minutes of recording. That's not bad. That's not terrible. It's between 2 and 3 hours per finished hour of recording time. That's on target. Not bad. And there was a lot of time waiting for the mix downs because it's short chapters. I will take that. All right, folks, I still need to do offsite backups of these files, but I won't make you sit and watch that like paint drying again. Yeah? Okay. I plan to be here next week. I'll try to set up a scheduled recording that's actually functional. So if you find it beforehand, you can just stay with the same link. It's all good. Everybody be well. Drink your fluids. Stay safe. Mask up out there. If you're sick, stay home. If you have to go out and you've been sick, please wear a mask. Because for some of us, it's not just a sniffle, it's multiple weeks of missed work. All right? Okay. Now I started to close all that out. I gotta find you again. There you are. Okay, for real. Bye, folks. Thanks for being here.